Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As some of you guys know, I recently turned 21, which means I am now finally allowed to buy a beer when I go to America. Now, whilst that is great, that is not the point of the video, because when I turned 21, it actually also caused me to reflect quite a bit on my life thus far and sort of what I have learned in these 21 years. And so I decided to actually make a list and, make a YouTube video out of it. 21 lessons that I learned from 21 years. So the first principle that I learned is to be yourself and to be authentic. Now, what this means is to actually do the things that you like and be who you are and not fake some kind of persona for other people, because let's face it, you're gonna be with yourself the rest of your life, so you might as well like yourself. So just do your thing and stop worrying about what other people might think of that, because there will always be people that don't agree with what you're doing and might be upset by what you're doing, but that's completely fine because it's actually normal. Not everyone is the same and everyone's life is different and you have different values from all of your friends, from your family. So just do what makes you happy. You should be the one in control of where you head in this life. And once you realize that, it's quite a powerful thing, because you actually give yourself so much power about the things you actually want in life and the things that you don't want. Now, the way that I actually personally learned this is through modeling. Modeling is something that's quite abnormal, and a lot of my friends and classmates at school weren't very supportive of it. But I can confidently say that I did the right thing pursuing modeling because of all the things that it has led me to, the people I've met, the places I've gone, and just the experiences that I've lived through. Now, the second principle is to actually invest in yourself and in the areas of your life that you want to continue pursuing. This can take the form of learning new skills, going to university, educating yourself on certain topics that interest you, or even learning a new language. Something that I want to do as soon as I have the time and have the resources to do so is get my personal training license, for example. An investment in yourself and in your education is amazing because knowledge is something that no one can take away from you. Now, the third principle is to learn to manage your money. Whilst I only started investing quite recently at the beginning of 2021, I was basically saving up my whole childhood from anything that I could get my hands on, whether it was my pocket money, my birthday money, or just money that my grandma gave me under the table, like at Christmas. Getting your money under control and investing it properly is something that is incredibly valuable, and anyone, I think, should do it. Now, with investing, I don't actually mean speculative and high-risk investments, but rather slow, long-term growth ETFs or index funds. Now, my personal dream regarding this topic is to actually be able to live off of what I earn from my investments further down the line. Up next, we have building and maintaining relationships. Having and maintaining relationships can be incredibly important for you, because it can go from finding job opportunities because a friend knows a friend who knows a friend, all the way to having a house to sleep at when you go to a city that you've never been to. It's kind of a win-win situation amongst friends. The next thing that we have is something that keeps me sane and actually allows me to use my extra energy and frustrations and anger in a sort of productive way, and that is having something on the side to what you're actually currently doing. So far, I've had a few examples of this in my life, whether it was modeling whilst I was still in high school, starting my YouTube channel when I was in university, or even now whilst I'm modeling, I'm still running the YouTube channel and trying to grow my social media. Now, this next one is a huge one for me personally, and that is the importance of traveling and exposing yourself to different cultures, different beliefs, and different surroundings. For most of my life, I've actually been traveling for my dad's job, and even before we started the expat life, my parents were super into traveling, and so we were always traveling the world. Now, I'm incredibly grateful that my parents had travel as such a high priority, because I feel like it really shaped me as a person. When living in a country that is not your own, you are exposed to something called culture shock. You start noticing all the differences in the new country, both positive and negative. It can be super small things, like, for example, not finding the right tomatoes in the supermarket, or not finding any good bread, or even the milk that you drink. Most of the time, you're also faced with a completely new language that you've never spoken before or even heard before in some cases, which leads you to deal with situations that you've never dealt with before, and it's quite funny and interesting and actually causes you to have a lot of funny stories. When I moved to Italy, for example, I spoke no English at all, let alone any Italian, so when I got there, I was just listening to everyone and understood none of it. All this, however, helps you appreciate the positives in each of the countries that you go to, and by knowing that it is not only possible but actually also quite fun to move and travel around the world, you vastly broaden your horizons to a kind of global market of opportunities opportunities, which is something, in my opinion, beautiful. Up next, we have the right environment. This goes from your workspace all the way to the friends and people that you surround yourself with. Now, in my personal case, it is very important that I have supportive people around me that kind of push me to be better and are supportive of the things that I actually want to do. I also realize that it helps me a lot to make the things that I want to do as easy as possible to do. Now, one great example of this is that I try to always find a gym that's really close to my house so that the task of going to the gym isn't actually that difficult, which means that I will be more likely to do it more often, if that makes sense. Of course, this is sometimes incredibly difficult if you're traveling a lot and are moving around quite a bit, but it is still good to be aware of the fact that your surroundings impact you quite a lot. This transitions us nicely into my next point, which is to actually study yourself. This will help you actually know what those things are that make you work better, or things that make you happy, things that make you unhappy. For a large part of my childhood, I was always actually trying to get my revenge on people who had done me wrong. Now, noticing this and actively working against that character trait of needing to get people back made me, in my opinion, a better person. So that's why, in my opinion, it's really useful to study yourself. What makes you happy and unhappy? How do you learn best? What do you really want from life? All of these things are incredibly important for you to discover about yourself so that you know your strengths and weaknesses and you can actually use them to your advantage. Now, this next one is about the small things that you do on a daily basis, and that is learning your habits and getting your habits on point. It is about having a daily routine where you do a little bit of the things that are important to you on a daily basis before you do anything else. As an example to show the power of your habits, here's how I looked like at the start of university. My university routine included a gym session basically every day. I was playing American football around 3 times a week, and I was generally quite busy doing things and being quite active. However, I was also going out partying and drinking around 3 times a week, which obviously had an impact on my sleep as well as my diet, because I ate and drank quite a lot more shit when I was going out. Now, after around 6 months of basically this kind of routine, this is how I looked like. Now, you can definitely see the positive effects of the gym sessions and all the trainings that I was doing, but you can also see that my skin and my eye bags just generally took a pretty big hit too from all the negative things that I was doing. Now, to make this effect of habits even clearer, this is what I looked like a few months after COVID had taken away all of my healthy habits, whilst I still kept the unhealthy habits which I had before. And from the photo, it is quite clear that my life balance was quite out of order through the bad habits that I was still keeping. So in short, take advantage of the habits that you can actually choose to do. Now, once again, that brings us to our next point quite nicely, and that is the power of compounding and patience with these small habits. Now, whether it's getting a good physique or learning a new skill, things take time, so be patient with it. Trust that what you are doing and the habits that you are choosing will lead you in the right direction. Up next, we have a lesson that my grandpa has been preaching since I was basically a 2-year-old child, but I only grasped towards the end of high school. And even now, I don't still fully agree with this point entirely, and that is not to compare yourself to others. Now, the reason why I don't fully agree with this one is because comparing yourself to other people can actually be incredibly motivating and can be a super good way of learning new skills. Some people, myself included, have a super strong competitive spirit, which can be super powerful in getting you to do things and actually pushing you forward, which is why it would be a pity, at least the way I see it, to completely neglect that power instead of just using it to your advantage and, pushing yourself further than you could go if you didn't have competition. On the other hand, I do agree with this principle partially, and that is because a lot of people compare themselves for the wrong reasons. And if comparing yourself to others makes you unhappy or you become jealous and it doesn't really help you in any way, then it is unnecessary and actually bad to do so. In the end, it is best to compare yourself with where you came from, where you want to go, and who you want to become. And in my opinion, if that requires you to compare and analyze other people and how they are living their life, then so be it. Compare yourself with others. The next point that I have is having a game plan. Actually think about your life and what you want from it. Find yourself a direction or a goal that you want to work towards, and then make a plan on how you will actually reach that goal. Sometimes we get so stuck in these daily nitty-gritty problems that life throws at us every single day, and it is very easy easy for our goals to actually drown in our daily life because we have so much going on as it is. Of course, I'm not saying that you should plan every single aspect of your life, and it would be ridiculous to do so and actually think that this plan would work out. And of course, you can always change this plan or this goal or direction. If your sentiment changes or you want to pursue a different sort of opportunity, then you can always readjust your goals and directions, because that's the beauty of it. It's your life, you decide where you want to go. But it is good to sort of have a goal and a direction which you can actually move towards, so that you know that what you're committing your time to and what you're committing your life to is actually worth it, and it is actually what you want and not where life kind of drifts you to. Up next, we have focusing on what you can control. It isn't so much about the situations you're put in life themselves. Everyone in life is put into situations that they have to deal with. So it is actually how you deal with these situations that determine how successful you are in life. Now, something that I sometimes do with foreseeable, unpredictable events is make a list of all the positives, of all the possible outcomes beforehand, so that once the thing that you can't control happens, you aren't as disappointed and you just focus on the list of positives that you made for that outcome. This happened to me with my university, for example. I had set my eyes on Trinity College Dublin for basically half a year already, but I still wrote a list of positives for each of my other university choices. And then when there was a huge mix-up with my school sending my test results to the wrong location, I went to the University of Sussex instead, and I was actually fine with it. Of course, it took me a day or two, but I just decided to look at the positives that I had written down for that university, which were, for example, that I would be closer to Germany, closer to London, where a lot of my friends were studying, and it had access to the beach, which I thought was pretty cool. My dad's way of saying this is that you can't control the wind, but you can set sail and decide where you're going from there and how you actually deal with the wind. Now, up next, we have a sort of sub-lesson of the one that I just mentioned, and that is to use tough times to grow and to actually learn from your mistakes. Now, I learned this lesson and the power of it multiple times throughout my life already, and I'm quite proud to say that I actually followed this advice for a lot of the situations that I was put in, whether it was the death of a close relative or being cheated on by my ex-girlfriend. I tried to come out of these tough situations better than how I went into them. Now, for me personally, this took the form of throwing myself into my schoolwork, or throwing myself into working out, or even starting modeling. All of these things were quite scary to me and are actually quite unpleasant in the moment, but since you usually don't feel very good in these tough situations anyways, you might as well benefit from this unpleasantness. In addition, it actually keeps you away from unhealthy coping mechanisms, like for example drugs and alcohol, where compared to that, going to the gym is a much better coping mechanism and actually helps you in the long run. Up next, we have don't have a crab mentality. Now, the crab mentality refers to the behavior of crabs when they are trapped inside of a bucket. Whilst each of them could individually get out of the bucket without any problems, because the crab's brains work in a way that if I can't have it, then you can't either, they end up sabotaging each other and remain stuck in the bucket all together as a group. So what I want to say with this is, don't be afraid to help other people on their way. Jealousy or not wanting others to succeed won't actually make your success any more likely. Another thing with this is that you will find that some of the advice you give others will actually apply back to you, and you will learn from actually giving advice to other people. So the next time that a friend comes to you with an amazing new business idea or some sort of thing that they want to experiment with, why not try to be a little bit more supportive and help them out, instead of saying that it's a terrible idea and they should never actually try it. The next lesson that I learned is to use your momentum to your advantage. It takes much less energy to keep moving than it does to start moving. And so if you already have momentum in whatever area of your life that you're looking at, then keep that momentum going. And if you don't have momentum now, then you can get your momentum started by sort of getting one aspect of your life fully under control and then trying to transfer that momentum into other aspects of your life. For me personally, exercising and working out is usually the first aspect of my life that I can get under control. And so whenever I move to a new place or get out of my rhythm, I try to get that aspect of my life under control and then use that momentum to clean up the rest of my life, whether it's my work, my university, or anything else. The next lesson that I learned is to make an attempt to saying yes to experiences. For most of my high school life, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get good grades and to study quite a lot. In university, however, I realized that sometimes it's worth sacrificing a few percentage points on an exam or on a research paper in order to take a trip with your friends or experience something new, seeing a new place or something like that. Towards the end of my second year at university, I was feeling quite down. In that time, two of my now close friends invited me to a barbecue and some beers at their house. And to be fully honest, I had zero motivation to go there and hang out with them. And I was even already getting ready to sleep, which is quite ridiculous because it was like 6 p.m. After realizing that, I thought to myself, God damn it, Tim, you're not a grandpa yet. You can't afford to do these things. So I went out, bought a six-pack and joined them at their place. I ended up staying with them until past 3 a.m. because it was so much fun just having good conversations and laughing. So yeah, in short, say yes to more things. The next lesson is take advice to heart. You are not the best at everything you do or want to do in your life. No one is. So learn to be able to lower your ego and actually take advice from people who know better, or even people who don't know this topic better than you. To think that someone has nothing to teach you is arrogant and honestly quite stupid. So try to learn from the conversations you have, the people you meet, and the situations that you're put in. There is a fine line, however, between listening to people's advice and learning from them and being gullible. So try to choose wisely whose advice you actually listen to. Now, the next thing is to try and find a balance between using your emotions and using your logic. Try to find an equilibrium where you kind of listen to your emotions, but you guide them with your logic. Now, I have always been sort of a logical and very rational sort of thinker, and so I have had to work on listening to my emotions more and actually doing the things that make me happy rather than just the things that make sense. In moments of decision or in tough situations, try to take a step back and rationalize the whole situation, take into account all the things that make sense, as well as the emotions that you have towards certain things, so that then once you make a decision, you can actually stick with it and roll with it. By using logic in your decision and having a rational way of thinking about your decision, it is much easier to justify this decision to yourself later on and not regret the decision as much, since at the time that you made the decision, with all the facts that you had, it made sense. Next lesson is to take care of your health. When you lose your health, you lose everything. And to be honest, I am not very good at this myself. Work on your posture, eat healthy, do some kind of exercise. And if there's something bothering you regarding your health, don't put it off. Just go see someone that's a specialist, because your health is something that you really shouldn't mess with. When you're sick, the only thing that you want is to be healthy again. And so just think about that when you're dealing with situations that regard your health. Now, the 21st lesson that I learned from my 21 years here on Earth is choose your battles. You don't have the energy and the resources, both physically and mentally, to deal with every single situation and problem all the time. Is this something that will make a difference? Is it something that is urgent and important at the same time? Will the investment of your resources, your time, your money, and your effort actually be worth it in the end? Or is it something you don't really need to solve and just kind of learn to deal with? Now, that was an incredibly long video, and I understand that many people probably thought maybe it was too long. However, I thought that it would be cool to have these sort of 21 lessons all in one video. I hope that some of you actually got some value out of it. If you guys have some specific lessons that you would maybe want an entire video on, then I would definitely be able to do that. Let me know what you guys think of these 21 lessons, and if there are any that you agree with or disagree with. If you've learned any really important lessons yourself, leave them down in the comments below. I would be really interested in reading what some of you guys say, since I think it's an incredibly interesting topic, and so let me know what you guys think. And now, since I'm feeling a little bit generous and I thought it's important to mention, a bonus sort of lesson that I've learned is that it's okay not to be okay sometimes. So when you need it, just take a day off. It's okay to be down for a bit. You just need to be able to say enough is enough and get back on it. No one is perfect. No one has their life figured out all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next week.